What if the sweetest reveal on social media wasn't sweet at all, but the spark that lit an emotional wildfire no one saw coming? Late last night, fans thought they were in for a tender moment when Jasmine Washington finally did what she had promised for months. One soft glow, one perfectly framed photo, one tiny baby girl's face revealed to the world. But within minutes, the comment sections exploded, timelines caught fire, and a single question began screaming louder than the congratulations. Who is the father? Because as fans zoomed in, compared features, and replayed old clips, a shocking theory took over the internet, one that Jasmine never mentioned, never denied, and may never have expected. The name on everyone's lips? Kirk. Fans are shocked. Emotions ran high, and what was meant to be a celebration quickly turned into a full-blown online investigation, with screenshots resurfacing, old arguments being reinterpreted, and whispered accusations turning into viral certainty. Some swear they see Kirk's eyes. Others point to his smile. A few even claim the timing lines up a little too perfectly. Meanwhile, Jasmine stayed silent, at least at first. No captions, no clarifications, just that photo. And in the world of celebrity drama, silence speaks louder than words. Behind the scenes, sources claim emotions were already boiling over. Old wounds reopened, text messages allegedly flew back and forth. And when family members began choosing sides, the situation escalated from speculation to confrontation, leaving relationships strained and loyalties tested. So was this just a harmless fan theory gone wild, or did one baby photo accidentally expose a secret Jasmine fought hard to keep buried? Because if the rumors are true, this reveal didn't just show a baby's face. It may have revealed everything. The moment Jasmine Washington pressed upload, she didn't realize she was stepping into a storm that had been quietly forming for months. The photo was simple, almost innocent. Her baby girl wrapped in a soft pink blanket, tiny fingers curled, eyes wide and unmistakably expressive. Within seconds, likes poured in. Hearts flooded the screen. Comments stacked on top of each other faster than anyone could read. Congratulations. She's beautiful. Finally. But then something shifted. A different tone crept in, subtle at first, almost hesitant, like someone afraid to say what everyone else was starting to think. One comment stood out, then another, then dozens more. People weren't just admiring the baby anymore. They were analyzing her, zooming in, comparing screenshots, pausing old videos. And suddenly, the joy of the reveal was drowned out by speculation that spread like wildfire. Fans began whispering the same name over and over again. Kirk. It didn't help that longtime followers remembered the complicated history between Jasmine and Kirk. The late-night lives where tension crackled through the screen. The arguments disguised as jokes. The moments when Jasmine would abruptly end streams, her face tight with emotion, Kirk's voice still echoing in the background. Fans had always sensed something unfinished between them, something unresolved. And now, staring at the baby's face, they felt like they were seeing proof. Emotions ran high as timelines were reconstructed in real time. Fans pulled up old posts, calculating dates, counting weeks, lining up events like detectives chasing a truth that Jasmine never offered. One fan wrote, "This baby has Kirk's eyes, I don't care what anyone says." Another replied, "Y'all are reaching," but even that sounded uncertain. The doubt was everywhere. The comment section had turned into a courtroom, and Jasmine was the silent defendant. Behind the scenes, things were already unraveling. According to sources close to the situation, Jasmine's phone started buzzing nonstop. Friends, family, old acquaintances, people she hadn't spoken to in years, all suddenly wanted answers. Some were supportive, telling her to ignore the noise. Others weren't so gentle. One message reportedly read, "You knew this would happen," and that single sentence hit harder than any public comment. Jasmine tried to stay calm, but those closest to her say she was shaken. She paced the room, baby monitor glowing softly nearby, refreshing her phone again and again as the speculation grew louder. Every time she thought the rumors might die down, a new post would go viral, pushing the narrative even further. Someone made a side-by-side comparison of the baby and Kirk as a child. Another dug up an old clip where Kirk joked, "You never know what the future holds," and suddenly it was being treated like a confession. Meanwhile, Kirk was not unaware. Sources claim he saw the photo within minutes of it going live. At first, he reportedly laughed it off, brushing it aside as internet nonsense. But that confidence didn't last. As messages flooded his inbox and his name began trending alongside Jasmine's, his tone changed. People close to him say he went quiet, unusually withdrawn, canceling plans and ignoring calls. When asked directly about the rumors, he allegedly said, "This is getting out of hand," but never actually denied anything. That silence only fueled the fire. Fans are shocked not just by the speculation, but by the reactions of those around them. Jasmine's inner circle appeared divided. One friend publicly commented hearts and baby emojis, clearly standing by her. Another unfollowed Kirk that same night, a move fans immediately noticed and dissected. Screenshots circulated. Theories multiplied. Was this loyalty? Or was it confirmation? The family was left divided too. Jasmine's relatives reportedly urged her to address the rumors head-on, to shut them down before they spiraled further. But others warned her that saying anything could make things worse. Once you open that door, you can't close it, one family member allegedly told her. Jasmine listened, nodded, and said nothing publicly. But privately, the pressure was mounting. Late that night, Jasmine is said to have sent Kirk a message. Short, direct, emotional. What exactly it said remains unknown, but sources insist it wasn't friendly. Kirk's response came hours later, equally brief. After that, communication reportedly stopped altogether. No calls, no texts, just silence stretching between two people whose past was suddenly being dragged into the present. As the night turned into morning, the story refused to fade. Reaction videos popped up everywhere. Influencers weighed in. Fan pages took sides. Some defended Jasmine fiercely, calling the speculation invasive and cruel. Others argued that when you live publicly, questions come with the territory. Every opinion added another layer to the chaos. And then, just when it seemed like things couldn't get more intense, a new detail surfaced. A fan claimed to have inside information, posting cryptic messages hinting that the truth is closer than you think. No proof, no names, just enough mystery to send the internet into a frenzy all over again. Jasmine watched it all unfold, holding her daughter close, wondering how a moment she waited so long to share had turned into something so heavy. The baby slept peacefully, unaware of the storm raging outside her world. But for Jasmine, there was no escaping it. The speculation had crossed a line, and whether she spoke or stayed silent, nothing would ever be the same again. By mid-morning, the situation had grown far beyond what Jasmine ever imagined. What started as whispers had now turned into loud accusations, and the internet was no longer asking questions. It was making statements. Fans were shocked by how quickly the narrative shifted from curiosity to certainty. Timelines were being posted with bold confidence. Captions read like verdicts. Do the math. The truth is obvious. We've been new. Emotions ran high as comment sections turned hostile, not just toward Jasmine, but toward anyone who dared to question the theory. Jasmine's silence was being interpreted in every possible way. Some saw it as dignity. Others called it guilt. Every minute without a statement became another reason for people to believe there was something to hide. Her management team reportedly urged her to post something, anything, even a vague message asking for privacy. But Jasmine hesitated. She had spent months protecting her peace, carefully controlling what parts of her life were shared, and now it felt like that control had been ripped away in seconds. Across town, Kirk was dealing with his own storm. Friends noticed a shift in him. The usual confidence was gone, replaced by tension that showed in the way he snapped at people over small things. His phone kept lighting up, and each notification seemed to push him further into frustration. One friend allegedly asked him straight up if the rumors were true. Kirk didn't answer immediately. He just stared at the screen, jaw tight, before finally saying, "This shouldn't be public." That response alone sent shockwaves through the room. Meanwhile, a new twist sent the internet into overdrive. An old clip resurfaced from months earlier, where Jasmine had been asked during a live stream if she ever wanted more kids. At the time, she smiled softly and said, "Life has a way of surprising you." Back then, it seemed harmless. Now, fans replayed it obsessively, convinced it was a hint hiding in plain sight. Comments flooded in, claiming she had been dropping clues all along. The reactions of friends only added fuel to the fire. One close associate of Kirk reportedly liked a comment that read, "That baby looks just like him." The like was quickly removed, but not before screenshots spread everywhere. Fans are shocked by how one accidental tap could shift public opinion so dramatically. Another friend went live, visibly emotional, saying, "Y'all don't know the full story," before abruptly ending the broadcast. The mystery deepened. Jasmine's family felt the pressure too. Group chats turned tense. Opinions clashed. Some relatives were furious that strangers felt entitled to dissect a newborn's face. Others worried that the silence was damaging Jasmine's reputation beyond repair. Voices were raised. Emotions spilled over. The family was left divided, unsure whether protecting Jasmine meant speaking up or staying quiet. Late that evening, Jasmine finally broke down. According to sources close to her, she sat alone, scrolling through comments until tears blurred the screen. She wasn't crying just for herself, but for her daughter, whose life had barely begun and was already being pulled into controversy. "This was never supposed to be like this," she reportedly said through sobs. The weight of it all pressed down on her chest, making it hard to breathe. Around the same time, Kirk made a move that no one expected. He unfollowed Jasmine. The internet noticed instantly. Fans took it as confirmation that something had gone wrong behind the scenes. Others saw it as an attempt to distance himself from the chaos. Either way, the damage was done. Speculation reached a fever pitch, and reaction videos doubled overnight. Then came the messages. Anonymous accounts claiming to know the real story. DMs sent to fan pages alleging secret meetings, private conversations, and agreements that were never meant to see the light of day. Most of it was unverified. Some of it contradicted itself. But in the world of viral drama, facts often matter less than momentum, and the momentum was unstoppable. Jasmine's phone buzzed with a notification from Kirk. The first one since their brief exchange the night before. Her hands shook as she opened it. The message was longer this time, filled with frustration and fear, accusing her of letting things spiral, of not protecting him from the narrative. Jasmine read it twice before responding, her reply sharp with hurt. Words were exchanged that couldn't be taken back. Accusations flew both ways. Old resentments resurfaced. What had once been unresolved tension now exploded into open conflict. By the time the conversation ended, both of them felt exposed, raw, and angry. And while that argument remained private, its impact was felt publicly. Hours later, Kirk posted a vague story. Black background, white text. Not everything you see online is true. No names, no explanations. But fans latched onto it immediately. Some called it a denial. Others said it was weak and evasive. Either way, it didn't calm anything down. Jasmine saw the post and felt her heart sink. To her, it felt like a subtle shift of blame, like he was protecting himself while leaving her to face the storm alone. She typed out a response, deleted it, typed again, then threw her phone across the couch in frustration. She didn't want to fight publicly. But she also didn't want to be painted as the villain in a story she never agreed to tell. As the second day of speculation unfolded, new voices joined the conversation. Former friends, distant relatives, people with just enough connection to sound credible. Each one added another piece to the puzzle, whether real or imagined. Fans are shocked by how quickly private lives became public property, and how easily narratives formed without confirmation. Through it all, the baby remained at the center of the storm, her image shared across platforms, analyzed and debated by millions. Jasmine tried to shield her, limiting comments, logging off, focusing on motherhood. But even in quiet moments, the noise lingered. Unanswered questions hung in the air. Was Kirk really the father? Would Jasmine ever confirm or deny it? Or would the truth remain buried beneath layers of speculation and drama? As night fell again, one thing was clear. This was no longer just a rumor. It was a saga. And it was far from over. By the third day, the internet had fully chosen chaos. What once felt like scattered speculation had now hardened into sides. Fan pages split down the middle, some defending Jasmine with fierce loyalty, others convinced Kirk's silence spoke louder than any denial ever could. Emotions ran high everywhere. Comment sections became battlegrounds where strangers argued like they were personally involved. Friendships online fractured. Longtime supporters unfollowed each other over disagreements about a baby they had never met. Jasmine woke up exhausted, her body heavy from sleepless nights and constant stress. The joy of new motherhood felt distant, buried under the noise. Every time she picked up her phone, there was another notification waiting, another theory, another accusation. She tried to remind herself why she shared the photo in the first place. She wanted to celebrate her daughter. She wanted to share love. Instead, she had unleashed something uncontrollable. Her management team called an emergency meeting. Voices overlapped as strategies were debated. One advisor insisted that Jasmine needed to clear the air immediately to shut down the rumors before they defined her story forever. Another warned that addressing Kirk directly would only escalate things further. Once names are said, there's no going back, they argued. Jasmine sat quietly, listening, her fingers gripping the edge of the table. When they finally turned to her for a decision, she surprised everyone by saying, "I need time." Her voice was calm, but her eyes were tired. Across town, Kirk was also facing pressure. His family had gotten involved now, asking questions he wasn't ready to answer. One relative reportedly told him that silence was making him look guilty. Another warned him not to get pulled into a public mess that could damage his future. Kirk felt trapped between protecting himself and facing a truth he wasn't prepared to share. The stress weighed on him, and it showed. Those close to him said he barely slept, replaying the same conversations in his head over and over again. Then came another twist. A woman claiming to be a former friend of Jasmine posted a long message online, hinting that there was more to the story than fans knew. She didn't name Kirk directly, but she didn't have to. The implication was clear. She spoke about secrets, broken promises, and decisions made behind closed doors. Fans are shocked by how confidently she spoke, as if she were revealing hidden truths. Within hours, her post went viral. Jasmine saw it and felt her chest tighten. She immediately recognized the woman as someone she had cut off months earlier after a falling out. To see her now stepping into the spotlight, feeding the narrative, felt like a betrayal. She doesn't know anything, Jasmine reportedly said through clenched teeth. But the damage was done. People believed her. They wanted to believe her. Drama always finds an audience. The family was left divided even further. Some relatives urged Jasmine to issue a cease and desist to protect herself and her child from false claims. Others worried that legal action would make things look even more suspicious. Tempers flared during phone calls. Voices were raised. Old family tensions resurfaced under the pressure. This wasn't just internet drama anymore. It was tearing through real relationships. Late that night, Jasmine finally did something no one expected. She went live. No announcement, no warning, just her face on screen, bare, tired, eyes glossy. Fans flooded in within seconds, the viewer count climbing faster than anyone could track. The chat exploded with hearts, questions, accusations, and pleas for answers. For a long moment, Jasmine said nothing. She just looked into the camera, breathing slowly, as if gathering strength. When she finally spoke, her voice trembled. "I never imagined sharing my daughter would turn into this," she said softly. She talked about motherhood, about protecting her child, about how painful it was to see people argue over something so personal. She never said Kirk's name. Not once. That omission became the loudest part of the live. Fans dissected every pause, every glance away from the camera, searching for meaning. Kirk watched the live too. Sources say he was pacing his living room, phone in hand, emotions colliding inside him. Part of him felt relieved she hadn't named him. Another part felt exposed anyway. When she spoke about betrayal and trust, he took it personally, even though she never confirmed it was about him. By the time the live ended, his nerves were shot. The internet reacted instantly. Some praised Jasmine for her vulnerability, saying she owed no one an explanation. Others accused her of being manipulative, claiming she was feeding the drama without addressing the real question. Reaction videos multiplied again, each creator offering their own interpretation of her words. Emotions ran high, and the conversation grew darker, more aggressive. Then came the message that changed everything. Jasmine received a call from someone she hadn't expected, Kirk's mother. The conversation was tense from the start. According to sources, she asked Jasmine directly what was going on, demanding clarity. Jasmine felt cornered, her emotions spilling over. Words were exchanged that were raw and unfiltered. Accusations surfaced. Misunderstandings were laid bare. By the end of the call, both women were shaken. That call didn't stay private for long. Somehow, word got out that families were now involved. Fans speculated wildly about what was said, who took whose side, and whether this meant the truth was about to come out. The family was left divided on both sides now, lines drawn where there hadn't been any before. Kirk confronted Jasmine through text again, this time angrier than before. He accused her of letting his family get dragged into the mess. Jasmine fired back, reminding him that he had every chance to speak up and chose not to. The argument escalated quickly, old wounds reopening, unresolved feelings resurfacing. This wasn't just about rumors anymore. It was about control, fear, and a past neither of them had fully faced. As the messages grew more heated, Jasmine made a decision. She stopped responding. She put her phone down, picked up her daughter, and focused on the quiet moment between them. But even in that silence, the tension lingered. Unanswered questions hung heavy in the air. The next morning, Kirk posted again. This time, a photo of himself as a child. No caption. Fans are shocked by how quickly people connected the dots. Side-by-side comparisons flooded timelines again, stronger than before. Some called it coincidence. Others called it confirmation. Kirk didn't comment. Jasmine didn't react. But the internet exploded. By now, the story had grown beyond both of them. Blogs picked it up. Podcasts discussed it. Even people who had never followed Jasmine before now had opinions. The baby reveal had turned into a cultural moment, a case study in how fast speculation can spiral into something uncontrollable. Jasmine felt overwhelmed, trapped inside a narrative she never agreed to star in. Kirk felt exposed, pulled into a spotlight he couldn't escape. And between them, a child who deserved peace had become the center of a storm neither of them knew how to stop. And as rumors continued to swirl and loyalties continued to fracture, one truth became impossible to ignore. No matter how this ended, nothing would ever go back to the way it was before. The pressure finally reached a breaking point when Jasmine realized silence was no longer protecting her, it was suffocating her. Every platform she opened carried her name, her daughter's face, and Kirk's shadow tied together in headlines and speculation. Fans were shocked by how fast sympathy had turned into suspicion. What hurt most was seeing people she once trusted liking comments that questioned her honesty. That quiet betrayal cut deeper than the loud accusations. Jasmine's days blurred together. Feedings, diaper changes, short naps, and endless scrolling she couldn't stop herself from doing. Every rumor felt personal. Every theory felt invasive. She began to feel like her motherhood was being judged through the lens of gossip instead of compassion. Late one night, after another wave of reaction videos hit the internet, she broke down completely. Holding her daughter close, she whispered, "I'm trying to protect you," over and over, as if saying it enough times could make it true. Behind the scenes, Kirk was unraveling too. The tough exterior he showed online cracked in private. Friends noticed he was more defensive, more irritable. He felt misunderstood, cornered by assumptions he didn't know how to fight without making things worse. When someone suggested he just come out and deny everything, he snapped back, saying, "It's not that simple." That single sentence echoed in the room, heavy with implication. Another dramatic twist hit when a mutual acquaintance of Jasmine and Kirk went live unexpectedly. Visibly nervous, she claimed she had been holding on to information for months but couldn't stay quiet anymore. She spoke in riddles, careful not to accuse directly, but her words were loaded. She talked about timing, overlapping emotions, and decisions made in moments of weakness. Fans are shocked by how easily her vague statements were accepted as truth. Screenshots spread instantly. Her live was clipped, reposted, dissected frame by frame. Jasmine watched the clips in disbelief. Anger mixed with exhaustion. She felt like everyone had a voice except her. She drafted a statement that night, typing furiously, pouring out everything she wanted to say. She accused the internet of crossing boundaries. She defended her integrity. She almost named names. But in the end, she deleted it all. Hitting post felt like lighting another match in a room already on fire. The family was left divided in ways that felt permanent. Some relatives stopped speaking to each other altogether, choosing sides based on loyalty or belief. Holiday plans were quietly cancelled. Group chats went silent. What started as online speculation had now carved deep fractures into real lives. Kirk's family wasn't spared either. Whispers followed them. Questions were asked at gatherings. One relative reportedly said, "This is bigger than you now," and Kirk knew they were right. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him, not just for himself, but for everyone being dragged into the chaos. Then came the moment no one expected. Jasmine posted again. Not a photo, not a statement, a short video. No makeup, no filters, just her voice. She spoke about accountability, about how easy it is for narratives to be created without consent. She said, "My daughter deserves better than being a topic of debate." Her voice cracked. She paused. Then she said, "I will not confirm or deny rumors about her father online." That line alone sent shockwaves across the internet. Fans are shocked by how firm she sounded. Some applauded her boundaries, calling it powerful. Others accused her of avoiding the truth. The comment sections exploded all over again. But this time, Jasmine didn't engage. She turned off notifications and stepped away. Kirk saw the video and felt a mix of relief and panic. Relief that she still hadn't named him. Panic because her refusal to deny anything felt louder than words. He considered posting his own response. Drafts piled up in his notes app. Each one sounded defensive. Each one felt wrong. In the end, he posted nothing. The internet filled the silence for him. Theories grew darker. Some claimed secret agreements were in place. Others suggested legal reasons for the silence. Emotions ran high as people argued over motives they could never truly know. The story had taken on a life of its own. Days passed, but the intensity didn't fade. Instead, it shifted. The narrative became less about proof and more about character. Jasmine was painted by some as calculating, by others as a victim. Kirk was framed as either cowardly or protective. Every move, every follow, every like was scrutinized. Jasmine tried to rebuild some sense of normalcy. She focused on routines, on the small moments that grounded her. But even in quiet, she felt watched. The fear that her daughter would grow up surrounded by rumors haunted her. She questioned whether sharing her life publicly had been a mistake. Then, another private detail leaked. Someone close to Kirk allegedly revealed that he had sought legal advice. That single rumor reignited everything. Fans speculated about paternity tests, custody fears, and behind-the-scenes negotiations. None of it was confirmed, but it didn't matter. The story was too big to stop now. Kirk felt exposed in a way he never had before. The idea that people believed he was preparing for a legal battle terrified him. He confronted the person he suspected of leaking the information, but denial met denial. Trust eroded further. Jasmine heard the same rumor and felt sick to her stomach. The thought of legal drama involving her daughter pushed her anxiety to new heights. She called her own lawyer, not to start anything, but to protect herself. The line between preparation and escalation blurred. Fans are shocked by how quickly a baby reveal turned into speculation about courts and conflict. Some begged both sides to stop. Others treated it like entertainment, waiting for the next twist. Reaction videos framed it as inevitable, as if this outcome had been written from the start. Late one night, Jasmine received a message from Kirk that felt different. Less angry, more tired. He wrote about fear, about feeling trapped, about not knowing how to fix what had spiraled so far out of control. Jasmine stared at the message for a long time before replying. Her response was simple, honest. She said, "This never had to be public. That sentence lingered between them, heavy with regret. The next day, nothing changed publicly. No announcements, no confirmations, just the same questions echoing across platforms. But privately, something shifted. Both of them understood now that the damage was real and the consequences were long-lasting. As the noise continued, one thing became painfully clear. The truth, whatever it was, no longer belonged just to Jasmine or Kirk. It had been claimed by millions of strangers, each convinced they were entitled to it. And in the middle of it all, a baby girl whose face sparked the storm, unaware that her existence had rewritten everything. The tension reached a strange, uneasy plateau where nothing was being said publicly, yet everything felt louder than ever. Fans were shocked by how silence itself became the headline. Every day without confirmation felt like another clue to some, another act of self-protection to others. Speculation didn't slow down, it evolved. Theories grew more elaborate, stitched together from fragments of old posts, offhand comments, and imagined subtext. People weren't just guessing anymore, they were storytelling. Jasmine tried to stay offline, but the world wouldn't let her. Even mundane moments were infiltrated by drama. A grocery store trip turned into whispered conversations when someone recognized her. A casual walk with a stroller sparked photos taken from across the street, posted online with captions asking questions no stranger had the right to ask. She felt exposed in ways she couldn't explain, like her privacy had dissolved overnight. Emotionally, she was drained. Physically, she was running on fumes. Yet she still woke up every morning and focused on her daughter. Feeding her, soothing her, reminding herself that this tiny human depended on her strength. But in the quiet moments, when the baby slept, the weight returned. Jasmine replayed every choice she had made leading up to the reveal, wondering where things had gone wrong. Kirk, meanwhile, felt trapped in a different kind of prison. His name had become shorthand for controversy. He noticed the shift in how people looked at him, how conversations paused when he entered a room. Even those who believed the rumors were false still treated him differently, as if waiting for him to confess something. The pressure built until it felt unbearable. One evening, Kirk broke. He confided in a close friend, admitting he didn't recognize his own life anymore. He said the speculation had forced him to confront emotions he had buried for a long time. Regrets, unresolved feelings, moments he wished he could rewrite. The friend listened quietly before saying something that stuck with him. The internet doesn't care about the truth, it cares about the story. That realization hit hard. Another twist emerged when a well-known blogger claimed to have verified information, coming soon. No details, just a countdown. Fans are shocked by how quickly anticipation took over. People treated it like a season finale, waiting for a reveal that might never come. Jasmine saw the countdown and felt sick. She knew from experience how often verified information meant nothing more than recycled rumors dressed up as facts. Her lawyer advised her to stay calm, to document everything, to protect herself. But emotionally, Jasmine felt like she was being hunted. Every move scrutinized, every silence weaponized. She wondered if motherhood would always feel like this now, overshadowed by suspicion and judgment. The countdown ended, and the blogger released a post filled with vague language and, sources say, statements. No hard proof, no confirmation, just more implication. Yet the damage was immediate. Fans latched onto it, spreading it faster than any correction could follow. Emotions ran high again, and Jasmine's name trended for all the wrong reasons. The family was left divided yet again. Some relatives wanted to confront the blogger publicly. Others begged Jasmine to ignore it, to let the noise burn itself out. Arguments broke out over dinner tables and phone calls. Blame was passed around. Stress seeped into every interaction. What should have been a time of celebration had become a constant state of defense. Kirk felt a surge of anger reading the blog. He considered legal action himself, then hesitated. The idea of escalating things further terrified him. He worried about what that would mean, how it would look, how it might affect Jasmine and the child. Despite everything, he didn't want more harm. Late one night, Jasmine and Kirk spoke again, this time on the phone. The conversation was long, heavy, and painfully honest. They talked about the past in ways they never had before. About mistakes, about timing, about how fear had shaped their choices. There were moments of tension, moments of silence, moments where emotions threatened to spill over. But there was also clarity. They didn't reach a resolution. They didn't agree on everything. But they acknowledged something important. The internet had turned their private history into entertainment, and neither of them knew how to reclaim it. After that call, Jasmine felt strangely calm. Not relieved, but steadier. She knew the rumors wouldn't disappear overnight. She knew people would continue to speculate. But she also knew she couldn't keep living in reaction mode. She needed boundaries that didn't depend on public approval. She began to shift her focus deliberately. Fewer posts, more intentional content, nothing about the rumors, nothing about Kirk, just moments of life that felt real and grounding. Fans noticed the change. Some respected it, others accused her of trying to distract from the truth. But Jasmine no longer read most comments. She chose peace where she could find it. Kirk made changes too. He stepped back from social media, limiting his presence. Friends said he seemed quieter, more reflective. The chaos had forced him to reevaluate his priorities, to think about consequences instead of reactions. He didn't feel ready to speak publicly, but he felt closer to understanding what he wanted privately. Still, the internet refused to let go. Every small update was analyzed. When Jasmine posted a photo of her daughter's hand, people debated who it resembled. When Kirk posted a quote about growth, fans interpreted it as guilt or acceptance. Nothing existed in isolation anymore. Fans are shocked by how deeply invested they had become. Some admitted they were exhausted by the constant drama but couldn't look away. Others doubled down, convinced the truth was just one post away. The story had become bigger than the people at its center. As weeks passed, the intensity slowly began to dull, not because questions were answered, but because attention shifted. New scandals emerged, new stories trended. Jasmine's name appeared less frequently, though never fully disappeared. The rumors lingered like a shadow, always present, always ready to resurface. Jasmine found strength in routine. In late-night feedings. In quiet mornings. In watching her daughter grow, blissfully unaware of the storm she had caused by simply existing. Motherhood grounded her in a way nothing else could. Kirk focused on rebuilding his sense of self outside the noise. Therapy, distance, reflection. The chaos had forced growth he hadn't expected, even if it came at a high cost. And while the world continued to speculate, to argue, to demand answers, one thing became clear to both of them. The truth, whatever it was, didn't owe the internet anything. And whether or not it ever came out publicly, the real work was happening behind closed doors, far away from likes, comments, and viral theories. Yet even as the story faded from the spotlight, the question remained unanswered. And in the world of fabricated fame and endless speculation, unanswered questions have a way of resurfacing when you least expect them. Just when it seemed like the noise was finally settling, the story found a way to pull itself back into the spotlight. A single screenshot began circulating, allegedly taken from a private group chat. No names were visible, but fans didn't need them. The wording felt familiar, too familiar, phrases people claimed only Jasmine would use. The internet went wild all over again. Fans are shocked by how one blurry image reignited everything that had barely begun to cool down. Jasmine woke up to hundreds of messages. Some supportive, many accusatory. The screenshot suggested she had confided in someone about being tired of pretending. Those 3 words became the new obsession. Pretending about what? Pretending for who? The speculation shifted from fatherhood to intent. People began questioning her character instead of her silence. Emotions ran high, and the tone online grew crueler. She denied it privately to those close to her. That wasn't me, she insisted. But publicly, she stayed quiet. The damage didn't wait for confirmation. Reaction videos dissected the screenshot as if it were evidence in a trial. Body language experts weighed in on past videos. Armchair psychologists analyzed her pauses, her tone, her eyes. Jasmine felt stripped down, reduced to a theory instead of a person. Kirk saw the screenshot too. His stomach dropped. Part of him wondered if it was real. Another part resented that strangers now had the power to make him doubt someone he actually knew. He felt pulled back into the chaos he had been trying so hard to step away from. Friends urged him to ignore it. But ignoring things hadn't worked before. The family was left divided yet again. Jasmine's relatives were furious, convinced someone from her inner circle was leaking lies. Accusations flew behind closed doors. Trust eroded further. Kirk's family, already exhausted, feared another wave of public scrutiny. They urged him to stay silent, to let it pass. But Kirk felt something shift inside him. The longer this dragged on, the more it felt like silence was becoming its own kind of statement. Late one night, Kirk opened his phone and started recording. He deleted the video. Tried again. Deleted it again. The words felt wrong no matter how he arranged them. Denial sounded defensive. Honesty sounded dangerous. Finally, he stopped recording and just sat there, staring at the screen, realizing there might be no perfect way out of this. Jasmine felt that same realization from the other side. She couldn't control the narrative anymore. She could only control herself. She leaned on a small circle of people she trusted completely. They reminded her of who she was before the internet decided who she should be. They reminded her that motherhood didn't require public approval. Then came an unexpected moment of humanity. A well-known creator, previously critical of Jasmine, posted a video apologizing. They admitted they had gone too far, that they had forgotten there was a real child at the center of the story. The video didn't erase the damage, but it cracked something open. Fans began to question their own behavior. Comments shifted slightly, not kinder, but more cautious. Jasmine saw the apology and cried. Not because it fixed anything, but because it made her feel seen as a person again, not just a headline. Kirk noticed the shift too. It didn't stop the rumors, but it softened the edges. For a brief moment, it felt like the storm might finally break. But drama never leaves quietly. Another twist emerged when someone claiming to be a distant relative of Kirk spoke out, suggesting the situation was more complicated than people think. They hinted at conversations, at emotions, at responsibility. No proof, no confirmation, just enough to reopen old wounds. Fans are shocked by how even the weakest hints still carried power. Kirk was furious. He confronted the relative directly, demanding they stop. The argument was explosive, filled with resentment and fear. Lines were crossed, relationships strained further. Kirk felt betrayed by his own blood, exposed by people who were supposed to protect him. Jasmine, hearing about it secondhand, felt a strange mix of sympathy and exhaustion. Despite everything, she didn't want anyone else dragged into the mess. She sent Kirk a short message. Not accusatory, not emotional, just 2 words. I'm sorry. He stared at it for a long time before replying with a single word of his own. Same. That exchange didn't fix anything. But it acknowledged the shared weight they were carrying. The internet, meanwhile, grew restless. Attention spans moved on, but hardcore fans stayed obsessed. They treated the silence like a puzzle, convinced that if they looked hard enough, the truth would reveal itself. Every new post, every absence, every vague quote was treated like a clue. Jasmine focused on building a future that didn't revolve around explanations. She worked quietly, planned carefully, protected fiercely. Motherhood changed her priorities in ways she hadn't expected. Drama still hurt, but it no longer defined her days. Kirk took steps to reclaim his privacy too. He distanced himself from people who thrived on attention. He set boundaries he should have set long ago. The chaos forced him to grow up in ways comfort never would have. Months passed. The rumors never fully disappeared, but they lost their urgency. New stories replaced them. New scandals distracted the crowd. Jasmine's daughter grew, smiled, laughed, lived a life untouched by comment sections and theories. That alone felt like a victory. Occasionally, the story resurfaced. A throwback post, a comparison photo, remember when? Fans still speculated. They always would. Unanswered questions have a long shelf life. But the intensity was gone. Jasmine and Kirk didn't become friends. They didn't become enemies either. They existed in a complicated space shaped by history, regret, and unspoken understanding. They both knew the truth of their situation, even if the world never would. And maybe that was enough. Because in the end, the biggest reveal wasn't about a baby's face or a father's identity. It was about how quickly joy can turn into judgment, how easily privacy can be stolen, and how hard it is to take back a story once the world thinks it owns it. Fans may always speculate, emotions may always run high, the family may have been left divided, but somewhere beyond the noise, beyond the screens and theories, real lives continued. Quietly, imperfectly, and on their own terms. Even after months had passed, the story refused to fully die. It lingered in corners of the internet, resurfacing whenever Jasmine posted anything that looked even remotely personal. A smile, a milestone, a caption that sounded reflective. Fans are shocked by how quickly people could turn softness into suspicion again. Every peaceful moment was treated like misdirection, as if calm itself were proof that something was being hidden. Jasmine learned to move differently. She stopped sharing in real time. Photos were delayed, captions were neutral, nothing that could be twisted. But even that restraint became a talking point. People said she was calculated now, guarded. Others said she was finally protecting herself. The internet argued endlessly, and Jasmine stopped trying to understand why strangers felt entitled to her truth. Behind closed doors, life was quieter but heavier. Motherhood grounded her, but it also magnified her fears. She worried about the future, about school days and questions her daughter might one day ask. She wondered how much of this chaos would follow them forever. At night, when the house was silent, those thoughts felt louder than any comment section ever had. Kirk felt the long-term weight too. The situation had changed how he trusted people. He noticed how quickly loyalty evaporated when attention was involved. Old friendships faded, new ones felt uncertain. He became more selective, more distant, choosing solitude over noise. Some called it growth, others said he was running. Kirk didn't care what it looked like anymore. He was tired of explaining himself to people who never wanted answers, only reactions. Another unexpected shift came when a popular podcast dedicated an entire episode to the situation. They framed it as a case study in modern fame, dissecting how a single post could spiral into months of controversy. Jasmine and Kirk were discussed like characters instead of people. Fans are shocked by how detached the conversation sounded, as if real emotions and real consequences didn't exist. Clips from the episode spread quickly, reopening debates that had finally begun to fade. Jasmine listened to part of it before turning it off. She felt numb rather than angry. This wasn't about her anymore, she realized. It was about the audience. The need for stories. The hunger for unresolved drama. She couldn't feed that hunger without starving herself. Kirk heard about the episode secondhand. He didn't listen at all. He had reached a point where protecting his mental space mattered more than correcting narratives. Still, the episode stirred something in him. A sense of unfinished business. Not with the internet but with himself. There were moments when Jasmine and Kirk crossed paths indirectly. Mutual friends. Overlapping events they both avoided. Mentions in conversations that stopped abruptly. They never addressed it publicly, but there was an unspoken agreement to keep distance, not out of hatred, but out of self-preservation. Then came a quieter, more personal turning point. Jasmine's daughter took her first steps. It wasn't filmed, it wasn't posted, it was just Jasmine, a living room floor, and a moment she had almost lost to chaos months earlier. She cried, not out of sadness, but relief. For the first time in a long while, the world felt small in the best way. That moment shifted something permanently. Jasmine stopped measuring her life by public perception. She measured it by presence. By laughter. By peace. The drama didn't vanish, but it lost its grip on her sense of worth. Kirk experienced his own reckoning. A conversation with an older family member forced him to confront patterns he had ignored. Avoidance. Fear of accountability. The tendency to let situations unfold instead of shaping them. It wasn't about rumors or the internet. It was about who he wanted to be moving forward. That conversation stayed with him longer than any headline ever had. Fans are shocked when months later, Jasmine finally addressed the past in the smallest way possible. Not with a statement, not with a reveal, but with a single sentence during an unrelated interview. When asked how she handled pressure, she said, "I learned that some truths don't need an audience to be real. Nothing more, nothing less." That quote went viral. People interpreted it endlessly. Some saw it as confirmation. Others as closure. But Jasmine didn't clarify. She didn't need to. She had said exactly what she meant. Kirk saw the quote and felt an unexpected sense of peace. Not because it absolved him or condemned him, but because it reflected something he had come to understand himself. The internet would never be satisfied. No amount of explaining would change that. But personal growth didn't require public permission. Time continued to do what it always does. Soften edges. Dull urgency. New stories replaced old ones. Jasmine's name appeared less frequently in gossip cycles. Kirk's too. When the story did resurface, it felt like an echo rather than an explosion. Still, fans never fully let go. Comments appeared under old videos. "Remember this? We never got answers." The questions lingered, but they no longer demanded attention. They existed in the background, part of the digital footprint neither of them could erase. Jasmine accepted that. She understood now that privacy wasn't about secrecy, it was about boundaries. About deciding what parts of her life were hers alone. Motherhood had taught her that fiercely. Kirk accepted his own version of that truth. He learned that silence wasn't always avoidance, but sometimes a refusal to perform. A choice not to turn real life into content. The family, once so divided, slowly began to heal. Not because everyone agreed, but because exhaustion eventually gave way to perspective. Relationships were repaired quietly. Some never fully recovered, but the constant tension eased. And through it all, the baby who started it all grew into a toddler, blissfully unaware of the storm her existence had sparked. She laughed freely. She loved openly. She lived in the present, untouched by narratives and speculation. Looking back, the story felt surreal to everyone involved. A reminder of how quickly joy can be overshadowed by noise. How fragile privacy is in a world that rewards exposure. How easily people forget there are human beings behind the headlines. Fans may always speculate. Emotions may always run high. Unanswered questions may always linger. But beyond the screens, beyond the drama, life moved forward. Quietly, imperfectly, and finally, with intention. Even with time creating distance, the story never truly disappeared, it simply changed shape. It became a reference point, something people brought up whenever conversations about privacy, motherhood, or public speculation surfaced online. Jasmine noticed it in subtle ways. A comment under an unrelated post. A DM that started supportive but ended with curiosity. Fans are shocked by how long people can hold on to a question when it's never been answered. There were days when Jasmine felt strong enough to ignore it all, when the noise felt far away and irrelevant. And then there were days when it crept back in unexpectedly. A random video recommendation. A throwback clip stitched together with ominous music. A stranger asking invasive questions with a smile, as if curiosity were harmless. Those moments reminded her that the internet doesn't forget, it archives. Motherhood continued to reshape her priorities. As her daughter grew more expressive, more curious, Jasmine became fiercely intentional about the world she was building around her. She limited who had access. She filtered who was allowed close. Trust became something earned slowly instead of assumed. The chaos had taught her that not everyone who smiled meant well. Kirk felt the same lesson in a different way. He watched how easily narratives formed without his consent and how difficult it was to dismantle them once they existed. It made him more cautious, more reflective. He began choosing his words carefully, even in private conversations. The fear of being misunderstood lingered, but it also pushed him toward growth he hadn't planned for. There were moments when Jasmine and Kirk almost spoke again, moments when old familiarity tugged at them through mutual connections or shared memories. But both of them sensed that reopening that door would invite more speculation, more damage. Sometimes restraint felt like the most mature choice they could make. Fans are shocked when, during a rare candid moment on a podcast, Jasmine spoke about forgiveness without context. She didn't mention names or events, but her words felt heavy. She talked about forgiving not for closure, but for peace. About letting go of the need to be understood by everyone. Listeners immediately connected the dots. Clips spread, debates reignited, but Jasmine didn't engage. She had said what she needed to say. Kirk heard the clip days later. It stayed with him longer than he expected. Not because it accused him, but because it mirrored thoughts he had been wrestling with himself. Forgiveness, he realized, wasn't about being absolved publicly. It was about accountability privately. About owning choices even when the world never knows the full story. As time went on, both of them began to experience something they hadn't felt in a long while. Normalcy. It didn't come all at once. It arrived in fragments. Quiet mornings. Uninterrupted conversations. Days where their names didn't trend for any reason at all. Those days felt like victories. The internet, of course, continued to do what it does best. Whenever engagement dipped, someone resurrected the story. Where are they now? Thread. A speculative deep dive. Fans are shocked by how even years later, people spoke about it with certainty, as if imagination had hardened into fact. But the reach was smaller now. The reactions less intense. The fire burned lower. Jasmine noticed that the people who mattered most never asked her for explanations. They respected her boundaries. They focused on who she was becoming instead of who rumors painted her to be. That realization helped her release the last bits of resentment she carried toward strangers who would never see her fully anyway. Kirk experienced a similar shift. He learned to recognize which voices deserved space in his life and which ones thrived on chaos. He rebuilt slowly, intentionally. The process wasn't glamorous or public, but it was real. The family dynamics continued to heal unevenly. Some relationships remained distant, shaped permanently by what had been said during the height of the drama. Others grew stronger, bonded by shared exhaustion and perspective. Time didn't erase everything, but it softened the sharpest edges. Fans are shocked when Jasmine eventually returns to sharing small glimpses of joy again. Not oversharing, just enough to remind people she was living beyond the rumors. A laugh caught on camera. A milestone celebrated quietly. A caption that felt hopeful instead of defensive. The tone shift was noticeable. Some applauded her growth, others accused her of moving on too easily. But Jasmine had stopped measuring her healing by public reaction. Kirk also began re-emerging, carefully. Not with explanations, but with intention. He focused on projects that mattered to him, causes that grounded him. He avoided spaces that thrived on speculation. The difference was subtle, but real. Occasionally, fans still tried to provoke a response. Comments tagged both of them. Questions lingered in live chats. Will we ever know? Why won't they just say it? But those questions slowly lost their power. Curiosity without access eventually grows tired. And then, one day, without fanfare, without announcement, the story stopped trending altogether. Not because it was resolved, but because the world had moved on to newer distractions. Jasmine noticed when weeks passed without seeing her name attached to speculation. Kirk noticed when he could scroll without bracing himself. The absence of noise felt strange at first. Then it felt like relief. Looking back, both of them carried scars from the experience. Not visible ones, but internal ones. Trust issues, heightened awareness, a deep understanding of how fragile privacy truly is. But they also carried growth, clarity, boundaries forged under pressure. The baby at the center of it all continued to grow, untouched by headlines, unaware of the theories that once surrounded her existence. She knew love, safety, consistency, and that mattered more than any narrative ever could. Fans may always remember the story as unfinished. Emotions may always run high when it's mentioned. Unanswered questions may linger indefinitely. But for the people who lived it, the chapter had closed quietly, not with a reveal, but with acceptance. Because not every story ends with answers. Some end with peace. And sometimes, that's the most dramatic resolution of all. Even as peace settled into their daily lives, the echoes of the past never fully disappeared. They softened, faded, but they were always there, like distant thunder reminding Jasmine and Kirk of what once shook their world. Occasionally, a new wave of fans would discover the old clips, the screenshots, the theories, and the cycle would try to restart. Fans are shocked by how history can resurface without warning, carried by algorithms instead of memory. Jasmine learned to recognize those moments early. She stopped doom scrolling. She delegated account management. She refused to let curiosity drag her back into a place she had fought so hard to leave. The discipline wasn't easy. Some days, the urge to correct the record still crept in. But she reminded herself of the cost. She had paid it once already. Motherhood continued to anchor her. As her daughter began forming words, Jasmine felt a renewed sense of responsibility. Not just to protect her physically, but emotionally. She wanted to model strength without bitterness, confidence without defensiveness. She wanted her child to grow up knowing that silence could be powerful, and that self-worth didn't come from being believed by strangers. Kirk's journey was quieter but just as heavy. The experience changed how he viewed attention entirely. What once felt validating now felt dangerous. He became intentional about privacy, selective about who he let close. He learned that being misunderstood by millions was far less painful than being misunderstood by people he trusted. That realization reshaped his relationships. There were moments when both of them wondered if things could have unfolded differently. If one statement, one denial, one confirmation early on might have stopped the avalanche. But hindsight offered no comfort. They understood now that the internet doesn't reward clarity, it rewards chaos. Even the truth can become fuel when audiences are hungry enough. Fans are shocked when, years later, Jasmine subtly reclaims her narrative without addressing the past directly. She begins speaking more openly about boundaries, about choosing peace over performance. Not as a victim, but as someone who learned the hard way. Her tone is calm, assured, unbothered. People notice the difference. Kirk notices it too. From a distance, he sees the strength in how she carries herself now. Not with defiance, but with certainty. It mirrors changes he's made in his own life. Growth, he realizes, doesn't need to be loud to be real. Occasionally, rumors still try to link them together. A coincidence, a similar location tag, a shared connection liking a post. Fans are shocked by how even the smallest overlaps can reignite speculation. But the reactions are weaker now. Fewer people care, fewer people engage. The story no longer has the same grip. Jasmine's family, once fractured by stress and disagreement, settles into a new normal. Not perfect, not untouched, but functional. The experience forced uncomfortable conversations that might never have happened otherwise. Boundaries were drawn, respect was redefined, some relationships healed, others remained distant, and that was accepted. Kirk's family underwent a similar shift. The chaos exposed cracks, but it also prompted growth. Accountability replaced avoidance. Honesty replaced silence, not publicly, but privately, where it mattered most. Fans are shocked when Jasmine is asked in a future interview if she regrets sharing her life online. She pauses, then answers honestly. She says she doesn't regret sharing joy, but she regrets underestimating how quickly joy can be weaponized. That quote circulates widely, resonating far beyond her own story. The internet reacts predictably. Some praise her insight, others twist it into renewed speculation. But Jasmine doesn't engage. She has learned that peace isn't passive, it's chosen daily. Kirk continues building a life that feels intentional. He pours energy into work that feels meaningful. He avoids spaces that thrive on gossip. The need to be understood by everyone has faded. What remains is a quiet confidence rooted in self-awareness. There are days when both of them feel gratitude for what the experience taught them, even if they would never wish it on anyone else. It stripped away illusions. It exposed weaknesses. It forced growth under pressure. And while the scars remain, so does resilience. The child who once sparked endless debate grows into her own personality, untouched by the theories that once surrounded her. She knows love without conditions. Safety without scrutiny. Her world is small in the best way, filled with people who see her as herself, not a symbol or a mystery. Fans may always ask questions. Some stories never lose their intrigue. Some rumors never fully die. But the power they once held is gone. Replaced by time, perspective, and the simple truth that not everything needs to be explained. Looking back, the saga becomes less about who was right or wrong, and more about what happens when private lives collide with public hunger. It's a reminder of how quickly narratives can form, how slowly they fade, and how deeply they can affect the people at the center. Jasmine understands now that protecting her peace isn't selfish, it's necessary. Kirk understands that accountability doesn't always look like public confession. Sometimes it looks like change. And the internet, restless as ever, moves on. But the lesson remains. Because long after the comments stop, long after the hashtags fade, the people who live the story carry it forward in quiet ways. In choices, in boundaries, in the decision to live fully, even when the world once demanded answers they never owed. And that, in the end, is how the story truly ends. Not with confirmation, not with denial, but with acceptance. And now it's your turn. After everything you've just heard, the unanswered questions, the silence, the speculation, and the emotional fallout, what do you really think happened behind the scenes? Do you believe Jasmine was protecting her peace, or do you think the silence spoke louder than words? And where do you stand on Kirk's role in all of this? Was he unfairly pulled into a storm, or was there more he could have done to stop it? Fans are still divided, emotions are still running high, and the truth may never fully come out. But your opinion matters here. Drop a comment right now and tell us which side you're on, or if you think there are no sides at all. Read through the comments too, because this conversation is far from over, and everyone sees this story differently. If this story shocked you, moved you, or made you question how quickly the internet can turn joy into judgment, make sure you hit that like button. It helps this video reach more people who love deep drama, emotional twists, and stories that keep you thinking long after the video ends. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want more intense, dramatic stories just like this one. We cover the moments everyone is talking about, and the ones no one dares to say out loud. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what drops next, because trust us, the next story is already brewing. And remember, sometimes the loudest drama isn't what's said, it's what's left unsaid. So stay tuned, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next video.